Okay, welcome everyone to today's GeoSpatial Connect Job Seeker Coaching webinar. Today is Wednesday morning for myself. For our US listeners, I think it's probably Tuesday evening for you guys. So wherever you are, welcome. My name's Dean Howell, and today we're going to speak. The topic that we're going to use or go into is the job interview more about your skills or the relationship? Okay, so we're going to talk about that in more detail shortly. So talking about the job interview itself and just a few tips along the way. So if you have any questions at any point, either just type them into the chat, or if you've got audio and video, you can also just interact that way. So just as a bit of a reminder, we do these short daily webinars for the members of GeoSpatial Connect, 10:30 a.m. Adelaide, Australia time. We're currently in daylight saving time, and I know the US is about to go into it, so that throws the times out a little bit, but 10:30 a.m. Australian Central Standard Summer Time. So on Mondays we do our events webinar. Tuesday is our services webinar. Wednesday is our job seeker coaching webinar today. Thursday is products and projects, and Friday is our business coaching session. So we record each of these, and you can either tune in live or watch them on our YouTube channel or through our blog at blog.geospatialconnect.com. All right, so let's get into today's topic. I'm just going to flick the screen because essentially today I'm going to go via the blog post that I've just written. So the blog that I just wrote is called "Is the Job Interview More About Your Skills or the Relationship?" So basically what I'm really saying there is that I might just switch back. Oh, all right, so we're back to there. So that's all fine. So if you're getting to the interview stage, your resume has probably done its job. The job of your resume is to actually sell the skills that you have, sell who you are to the prospective employer for the job that you've applied for. And so if you're getting an interview, then your resume is doing the job that you intended it to do. If you're not getting to the interview stage, then it may be a good time to look at revamping that resume or looking at the way that you're applying for those jobs. So it could be a number of factors. It could be your resume, it could be your cover letter. It could be that you're aiming too high or too low. So often I'll see resumes of people with PhDs and they're applying for graduate level roles, and you sort of go, as an employer, will this person be bored with the role very quickly? So it's a matter of trying to position yourself most effectively to get to the interview. So that's what your resume is all about. So speak to me if you want to look at those things and how they can help you get to the interview stage. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is the interview stage, and we're going to talk about some tips on what you do in the interview. Now, this is fairly generic from a point of view. It's not specifically about the geospatial industry, but I mean, that's who GeoSpatial Connect targets, and that's who we help all the time. So these sort of tips are generic, but at the same time can be used to help you in whatever role that you're looking for. So the first tip about any interview is arriving early. So this is probably the step between the resume and the step after the resume and after your preparation and you're actually at the interview stage. So there is obviously a step in between the resume and the interview, in that you need to be prepared. Now, we're not really going to talk about that today too much, but just to say that some of the things that you need to research the company, you need to make sure that you know where you're going and all those sorts of factors. Prepare your questions, prepare your answers, be prepared. You know, it's a bit like the motto from the Scouts: be prepared. So here we're at the interview, or at the waiting room for the interview is the first tip. So be early, all right? There's always going to be factors like traffic and things coming up at the last moment. Be prepared for all of those and leave early and arrive early. You know, arriving early will show the employer that you're eager, that you're keen for the job, and that you're punctual and that you can be relied on. The last thing is you want right off the bat is to be late for an interview and all you're doing is apologizing for being late. All right, there's actually almost no excuse for being late. But if you are running late, then do the courteous thing of actually ringing ahead and telling them they're late. Those things do happen, but you know, there is ways to make sure that that it doesn't happen. You know, leave half an hour earlier, catch the earlier train, whatever it takes to actually be there early. All right, so the next step is to dress appropriately for the interview. Now, just because, like within the geospatial industry, you know, it's actually a fairly relaxed industry in the main because it's a very technical job. A lot of people aren't interacting with the customers and the clients. So a lot of workplaces are actually pretty laid back in what you can wear. Some are field jobs, so you may actually be out in the field in appropriate wear. But when it comes to the interview, prepare yourself and make an impression. All right, if you have a suit for a guy, then wear it. You know, it doesn't actually hurt because you want to try and make an impression right from the start. Do your hair, do your teeth. And in my blog, I even make the comment, I'm starting to sound like your mum. But you know, all of those things, look at yourself in the mirror before you leave. Do you look like you would like to employ the person you're looking at? And, you know, be prepared, wear the appropriate clothing for the interview. All right, you're there to make an impression, and that's the biggest thing. Interviews are about making an impression, and in a lot of cases it's the first impression. If you've been lucky enough to you may have met the employer before at a networking function or conference or something like that. But you always want to make a good impression. All right, so you're getting into the interview, and the first thing is smile. Be happy that you're there. Um, Introduce yourself if they don't introduce themselves to you. Shake hands if it's appropriate for your culture. Um, you know, but smile as much as possible, because um, in my blog I was going to use the analogy: a smile is like a map, and it often is, because we say that a map and a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, smiling is a great way to break down barriers. It allows you to connect with people without saying anything, and if if you make someone else feel happy, then they'll reciprocate and you'll feel happy, and you start building up that bond and that relationship at the interview. And that's what it's all about. As I said, that's what the title of today is. Is the interview all about your skills or the relationship? Now, the interview is very much about building that relationship with the, the interview panel. If you can come across in a great way, then you will stand out in that person's mind. They will remember you over the others. And that's what you want to do, because they're going to select someone for this job, and it might only be one job, and there might be 10 people they're interviewing, and so you've got to stand out above that. All right, so when you are answering your questions, and I've said this before, use personal examples for all of your answers. Keep your answers short, but use those personal examples. And it doesn't hurt at the end of your answer to ask whether that you've answered the question enough, whether they want more information. Okay, so ask those questions and be proactive about it. So make sure that you answer with personal examples, and ask the question of whether you've covered it enough, because there is certain times where you might go off on a wrong tangent, and I've certainly been guilty of that. And if you don't ask the question at the end, they may just give you a big X on the page, whereas if they say, well, no, that's not quite what we want, can you explain it a bit better? Oh, I've just had Camille join, so welcome. Welcome to the Hangout today. We're about halfway through, or probably a little more than that. But the recording will be available, Camille. But if you have any questions, just type them in to the chat, and I will answer them. All right. So we were just talking about answering your questions with personal examples, keeping them short, but asking the panel whether you've provided enough information. And all right, so and ask questions. That's my next point, is that you want to ask questions of the panel. Almost inevitably at the end, at a job interview, they will ask you at the end whether you're interested in asking questions. And so make sure that you have some questions prepared. Ask about the job, about the conditions, about the work culture, when you're likely to start, all those sorts of things. Now, often those questions will be answered by the panel. Often at the start, they'll give you an explanation of the job, and some of those questions will just be answered automatically. And sometimes that's just a bit unfortunate, because you'll get to the end and you go, well, you've actually answered all my questions. But try to have some questions in reserve to engage the panel, because once again, the interview is the time for you to make an impression. And so if you can get them talking about themselves, about their company, ask them what their role is. That's a great question when they ask you, if you have any questions. If you're going for a GIS role, or then the GIS manager might be there, then ask the GIS manager what they do. Ask the HR manager what they do. People love to talk about themselves and about the company. And if you get them engaging, get them talking about them, then they'll remember you more, because it's made them feel good. And Jason's just written a comment. His favorite is to ask what really drives results for the company. And that's a great question, because, if they're a results focused company, they provide a service or they sell something, how they put those indicators together. And then, it shows that you're keen. It shows that you're interested in learning right from the start. All right. So ask those sorts of questions and engage with them. And the more you engage, the more you'll have built up that rapport, as I said. And the last point that I wanted to make was to be remembered. Now, while I was sort of Googling this morning, before I was putting my blog together and the information for today's presentation, I was reading a few other HR blogs about interviewing tips, and one really stuck out in my mind, and I haven't really used it myself, but I thought it was a great idea. And they sort of talked about being remembered, talking about something, and this can be in your personal examples or just a statement about yourself or whatever, that makes you different to everyone else. Like they might ask you what you like to do in your spare time, and you might have a way out there hobby. I remember I was mentoring a young surveyor here in Adelaide, and she was a rally car driver. That always sticks in my mind. Is to be honest, I can't remember what even company she currently works for, but I always remember that she's a rally car driver. And from a personal example of my own, if I was to use something like that, I might use, like, I've just recently come back from Nepal where I was doing some trekking, and while I was there I met some GIS people and looked at how they're using GIS to improve their country, and Nepal's a very poor country and still developing, and a whole range of things when we compare that to the US and Australia and stuff like that. And if you were to use an example like that I just get, it's way out there. I mean, I've mentioned Nepal, and I've mentioned using it to help their country, and it's going to be little things like that that will help them remember you, and it shows that you've got interests outside and they are slightly different. So Justin's just put another comment. GIS managers like their employers to have true hard work initiative to learn and work for their company. Yeah, and that's true. I mean, you need to be proactive in the way that you work and show initiative once you've got the job. Reminds me, I don't know if anyone's ever read the book, I can't even think of the name of it right now, but the name of the book will come to me. But in there's a story about a guy who um, wanted to work for the American steel company, and he was when he came to work, he was always first in, he was always first to leave, and he always went the extra mile. And that young man quickly rose through the ranks to actually become the chief executive officer of the American Steel Company, and was one of the richest men in the mid 1900s because of that initiative. Just went the extra mile. He learnt what he needed to do, and in any job, going that extra mile, showing that you're interested will always help you to move on. And that's a similar thing that sort of happened to me in terms of my very first GIS job. I was employed as a cartographer with the Department of Environment in Queensland, and I worked with a whole lot of traditional cartographers where we produced maps for the national parks. And they were great cartographers, very artistic, and they did everything by hand. And when I came in, GIS was just being introduced, and they gave me the GIS system, and quickly GIS overtook the traditional cartographic methods, and we transferred all the information into digital. And I rose through that department very quickly because I had embraced the technology, whereas the older cartographers were sort of set in their ways, and they were great at what they did, but they didn't move with the time. So you need to be looking for those advantages. So, all right, so just a bit of a recap of what I've said today. So arrive early to your interview. Dress appropriately for the interview. Remember, we're trying to make an impression at the interview. All right, smile and introduce yourself. All right, ask questions and answer with personal examples, and be remembered. So come up with something that's a bit out there, and use it as an example. Like I said, my surveying friend, she's a rally car driver. Doesn't mean you need to go and start up a new hobby that's radical, but there's probably an example in yourself that you'll know. All right, so hopefully that has been useful for you today. Does anyone have any questions before we sign off for today? Thank you to Jason and Camille. What would you like the topic to be? I'm happy to sort of speak about anything. If you have something very specific that you would like me to cover, I'm certainly happy to cover that. I haven't got a specific topic in mind for next week yet, but just probably given that over the last couple of weeks we've looked at the resume, and we've looked at preparation, and today the interview, then we might start to look at things like building in your career and additional training and mentoring and stuff like that over the next couple of weeks for this particular session. But if you have something specific you would like, anyone, then certainly just drop me a note, and I can tailor the all right, that's a great topic, Camille, in terms of saying that what are employers looking from international candidates. Now, I have written a couple of blog posts on working in Australia, and we can look at some of those things, what employers look for in international candidates. So I can note that down, and we can certainly talk about that in terms of how to prepare yourself for working in another country. Yep. So Jason's also put an idea about advanced courses and things like certifications and stuff like that. So there, and we might even be able to get some of those certification organisations to participate. The EURISAs and the in Australia, the Spatial Sciences Institute, and those sorts of things. So, all right. So, yep, that's fine. I mean, my background's obviously in GIS, but GeoSpatial Connect is about connecting people across the professions, and we are launching some more specialised services this week through GeoSpatial Connect, where we're going to be actively trying to connect employers and job seekers across the industry. So when an employer is looking for someone, we will help to connect people in those, and vice versa. If people are actively looking for a job, then we will try to find an employer for them to match them. So that is one of the aims of GeoSpatial Connect, and we're going to be actively doing that, promoting that service for job seekers and for employers over the next, or starting this week. So thanks again, everyone, for attending today. Just to recap, Mondays is our events webinar, Tuesday is our services webinar, Wednesday job seeking coaching, Thursday is our products and projects, and Friday business coaching. So thank you to everyone for attending, and if you have any questions at any time, then just drop me an email. I look forward to catching you again on any of these webinars. Invite your friends along and tell them all about it, and tell them all about the site. All right, thank you all, and we'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.